And now the third etude, marked Vivo. Now that's a fun one to play. It has a few little things in it that are a little tricky, but I want to point out just a few fingering things that will help out. First of all, in order to create that nice, clear, low E flat, one of the simplest things you could do is to take a step. And all you have to do during that step, while you take it, is just, as I tell my students, gain ground. It's an old catcher's trade. Just simply gain ground a little bit forward. So you want to start a little further away from the stand, and in that way that low E flat's just going to pop right out, and you don't have to worry about trying to force it. Whatever you do, don't move downward because it'll crack. The second thing is that you want to have a really, really clear and very focused top F grace note. So the best way to play that as you play the G, play a fork F fingering by adding the third finger. And then as far as the rhythm, keep that very, very smooth, especially when you have the 32nd and the 16th rhythm. It's easy to kind of get a hang where you want to play. Just keep it very smooth. And as I always like to say to my students, seal the plumbing before you articulate. It's very, very important, and in this etude in particular, if you move the fingers beforehand, the notes will be waiting for you. If you play at exactly the same moment that you articulate, then you're going to get cracks happen, the notes don't happen in the right place, and what you have to do is then figure out the dynamic that just makes it work, which is not necessarily what the composer intended here. So in my practice, what I would do, in addition to taking and allowing these low notes and high notes to happen easily, is to move the fingers beforehand. In slow motion, you would see that those fingers move just a little bit before I articulate each time. And in that way, I get a choice as to whether I want to play it soft, loud, with an accent, without an accent, with vibrato, without. I have choice in doing it. But if I move my fingers at the same moment, I get in trouble. Now, people ask me all the time, well, where does this habit come from? Why do we synchronize our fingers? There's a really easy answer for that. When you're in rehearsals, especially, we are often encouraged to finger our notes as we go along. Well, if I was fingering this without playing, I'd go. Now, I'm actually blowing and practicing blowing at exactly the same instant that I finger. But if I move my fingers beforehand, I get this. You're not going to get that feedback. So that's where, in my studio here at the U of A, we don't allow air flute, because it simply coordinates the blowing at exactly the moment you close the keys, which causes the cracks in the sound, the imperfections in the clarity of the sound, and all you have to do is simply close your fingers beforehand. So we always say, seal the plumbing before you articulate. As you're playing the a tempo in the second system on the second bar, this is where you're going to use your lower body. It's nice and soft, which is going to be easier, so move your fingers beforehand, but then just simply bend your knees a little bit and it'll be easier to play soft. And then as you get ready to play the next bit, all you have to do in order to execute the low Fs each time is just simply kind of gradually stand up. I'd still keep myself with my knees bent. In playing those low Fs, all I had to do was stand up and they just speak right away. In the very, very last system, we have this nice little chromatic passage of arpeggios. The first one is really just an E flat, then we go to a D major. It just has passing tones. And in the last one, we have the D flat major 7 arpeggio. You have a D flat major 7 and a B major 7. So those little half steps aren't passing tones. And this is where you're going to have to be smart and use your lever. just like you would use in the first chromatic passage in the last bar in the first system. That lever is going to allow you to have a very smooth finger. I would never use 1-1 in that case because you're probably going to get a finger glitch. You'll get that happening all the time, so use your lever. Same thing here in the third bar of the last system. And when I just finished that arpeggio, because it's a B major arpeggio, which I always play with an anchor fingering, you can see that finger doesn't move. In that location right there, as I add my lever, I go to my lever B flat finger, and I've got this third finger down. Now I've got plenty of time. I've got a rest that I can pick it up on, play my G. So I'm not going to be trying to go to my thumb, or definitely would not use my 1-1, but all I'm going to do is simply use that for the first 2 B flats, and then I move my thumb over for the finish of the piece. Now, if you want that low E flat to work really easily, all you have to do is stand up. Matter of fact, I have a student here that she has a patented move where all she does is picks up her left knee and every low note pops right out. So if you know who Jethro Tull, the band is, that patented stance creates the low note. So just to give you an example, all you have to do, and the low E flat will pop right out without any effort whatsoever. You don't have to do that and be egregious like that, but all you have to do is just simply stand up. Stand up through the low notes, squat down through the high notes.